You're listening to Female Founders with Claire Bartlett, the podcast that tells you what it is really like to be a female founder in today's world. We share invaluable insights through personal journeys and real-life business experiences, highlighting the highs and the lows so you can move forward in your business with ease. I am passionate to share with you the realities of business and give you the strategies and simple steps you need to truly succeed with your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. Managing your business finances can feel overwhelming, but Xero simplifies it all and gives you the power to keep your books in order and your mind on growth. Xero have offered an amazing 50% discount on your first 3 months with them. So if you'd like to take advantage of this amazing deal, just search refer.xero.com/female founders or follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to give this show a follow to make sure you never miss an episode and share it with any incredible female founders you know. But for now, let's jump into this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Female Founders podcast. I'm Claire Bartlett, your host, here to help you grow your business, build your confidence, and shine online. Whether you're multitasking with a cup of coffee or tuning in during some well-deserved downtime, I am thrilled that you're here with me today. Today's topic is a game changer: strategy. This is the foundation of everything in your business. Without it, you're just running in circles, but with it, you're working toward a clear goal with purpose. In this episode, I will share what a business strategy is and why it's essential, how your vision, values, and purpose create the foundation for your strategy, the difference between short-term and long-term strategies and why you need both, how to set effective goals using that SMART framework, practical tips on prioritizing tasks and staying focused, and finally, why reviewing your strategy regularly is the secret to consistent success. So get ready for a mix of practical advice, examples, and mindset shifts. Let's start with why strategy matters so much. Imagine starting a business with no actual idea of what you're wanting to achieve and where you want that business to go. You are working super hard, harder than you ever have before, but it feels like you are never getting anywhere. You're busy every day, but when you stop and take stock, you realize that you're not moving any closer to your goals. Sound familiar? Well, that's what happens when you operate without a clear strategy. There's a term, busy fools, and I don't know about you, but there have been many times in my business I have definitely been one of those. Putting in all of the hours, but never really achieving anything. And that's when I realized I had no roadmap of where I was wanting to go. A strategy is the blueprint for your business. It's your plan for what you're aiming for and how to achieve it, and it keeps you focused on the bigger picture. Even when you're buried in day-to-day tasks, you will still know what it's all for and that you're moving closer to that end goal. But without a strategy, it's so easy to get distracted by shiny new ideas or overwhelmed by the sheer number of things that you could be doing. But none of those things will help you in the long run. I have such a busy mind and I get a million new ideas every day. But if I try and acted on all of those, I would never actually get anywhere. So implementing a solid strategy in my business really helped me focus my attention and energy in all the right places. A strategy, honestly, is non-negotiable. It gives you direction and focus. It tells you where you're going and how you'll get there. It's sort of like your North Star. It keeps you aligned with your goals. Honestly, efficiency with a strategy, you're not just working hard, but you're working smart. You're focusing your time and energy on activities that will actually move the needle. And when new opportunities or challenges arise in your business, your strategy sort of acts as a filter. Does it fit into your plan? If not, then it's easy no. And honestly, business is unpredictable. A strong strategy really helps you stay grounded and focused even when things don't go to plan. A solid strategy isn't just a nice to have, it's the foundation of a thriving business. But here's the catch. It has to be aligned with who you are and what you're building. And that's where your vision, values, and purpose come in. Before you can create a strategy, you need a clear foundation. And this means understanding your vision, values, and purpose, the three pillars that guide every decision you can make in your business. So let's start with the vision. Your vision is the dream. It's the big picture, the ultimate goal. It's what you're working toward, even if it feels really far away right now. A strong vision can inspire you. It's your motivation to keep going, even on those tough days. And it can give you clarity. It helps you focus on what matters most. It sets the tone for everything that you're doing, and it defines the future for your business. For example, let's say your vision is to become the go-to expert in your industry. Well, maybe that looks like building a community or getting featured in national media or hitting a specific revenue milestone. But by building a clear vision, you can see where you are going and then take steps towards it every day. Whatever it is, go and write it down. I give you permission to hit pause for a minute. Ask yourself, what is this all for? What is my vision here? And then write it down. Then come back for the next bit. No, but seriously, be specific. The more specific, the better. And don't be afraid to dream big. Then you have your values. Your values are the principles that guide how you run your business. They're what you stand for and what you won't compromise on. Clear values, they help you build trust with your audience. They can see what your values are and they can then relate to them. It helps you attract the right people. It's a great magnet for the right clients, for collaborations, and for team members, actually, who align with that vision and those values. And it sort of, it's a way of staying consistent. They keep you grounded. And if every piece of content you ever create, every new product or service that you offer is always in line with your values, then it keeps consistency through your business. So, for example, if inclusivity is a core value for you, then you would ensure that all of your products, services, and messaging always reflect that. And if innovation is a value, you'll prioritize creativity and new ideas. But what's important to note here is that your business values and your personal values are different. You are not your business. So make sure that you answer this one directly relating to your business, not yourself. Some great examples here are, like nurturing and being kind, trailblazing, disruptive, supportive. These are all great terms that could easily describe a business's values and then keep them aligned in their actions. Finally, you have your purpose. This is your why. It's the heart of your business, the reason that you started and the impact that you want to make. Without a clear purpose, it's so easy to lose motivation when things get tough because you forget why you're doing it in the first place. So there's so many questions that you can ask to find out the purpose. Ask yourself, well, why did I start this business? Who do I want to help with what I'm doing? And what changes do I want to create in the world? The purpose doesn't have to be grand or world changing. It just needs to resonate with you. And often there are two purposes on the go, actually. You've got a personal one and a professional one. For example, your personal purpose could be to provide financial security for your family, have more flexibility and creating more balance between work and home. I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with that. But these are your personal purpose. This is, your personal why and what keeps you going every day. But then you need to have a business purpose. What are you wanting to achieve with the business? It could be, that you're wanting to create products that make people's lives easier. Or it could be something huge like changing laws or creating awareness about an injustice or change how the world thinks about something. Your purpose is deeply personal, but it also needs to be easily explained to others around you. Your team members need to get on board with your purpose. They need to be as passionate about it as you are. Your customers also need to understand what the end goal is here, what the purpose is that everyone's working towards. And when your vision, values, and purpose are aligned, you can create a strategy that not only drives results, but also feels authentic to you. It's a difference between building a business that you love and one that just feels like a job and feels like a chore. So now that you've got your foundations, it's time to build the strategy. Now, a successful strategy has two parts: short term and long term. A long term strategy is the big picture plan. It outlines the key milestones you need to hit to achieve that end vision. It's sort of your roadmap for if you did one for, 3, 5, and 10 years. For example, if your vision is to become a nationally recognized brand, your long term strategy might include building an online course or scaling your team, hosting live events. And if your vision is to hit £1 million in sales, then your strategy might include diversifying your product range, creating more products, finding partnerships and investments. The long-term strategy gives you direction and helps you make decisions about where to invest your time, money, and energy. Every single thing that you do every day is always to move yourself forward to that long-term strategy. That's why it's so important always to be looking ahead, because otherwise, like I said earlier, have you ever seen that image where there's, a straight line and then actually there's like a crazy wiggled line going everywhere? That's how most entrepreneurs work. They never have that direct focus on where they're wanting their business to go. And that's what the long-term strategy can give you. Then you build the short-term strategy around that. Because let's be honest, looking at that long-term goal can feel overwhelming, unachievable. Depending on how big we're dreaming here, guys, it can feel like it's going to take you forever to get there. And it can be hard to keep your focus on that end goal. So that's why we need short-term strategies alongside it. And these are about breaking down those long-term goals into actionable steps. So they could be quarterly, monthly, annually, or even weekly, depending on how far you need the guidance. So if your long-term goal is to grow your audience, then the short-term strategy would be creating a 90-day content plan for Instagram, or running a targeted ad campaign, hosting webinars. So you can see that the end goal might be 10,000 followers. But how you're going to achieve that is by doing these smaller things, posting consistently on Instagram. Well, how are you going to do that? You build a strategy that will keep you aligned with that goal and help you do 90 days straight of Instagram content. If the longer term goal is to launch a new product, then the short term strategy would be, market research, prototypes, planning the launch campaign. The key is to focus on one thing at a time here. And this is, I've mentioned already how busy my brain is and how many ideas I get. But it's really important to be working on no more than like one big strategy and maybe two slightly smaller ones. You have to ask yourself what the most important thing is that I need to do right now to move closer to my goal. And then put all of your energy and focus into that. So, because, as I've mentioned, if you're wanting 10,000 followers, well, there's a million different ways that you could hit that long-term target. But you can't do all of them all at once because you'll end up doing none of them very well. So you need to pick what is the one thing that I'm going to focus on that will move me the closest to that goal right now. And that might be doing your 90-day content plan. And then alongside that, you can be like, well, I can do engagement and, do some direct messaging and connect with people that like-minded. I can create a webinar and get people to follow me that way. So those are sort of the smaller things, the supportive strategies, but you have your number one main strategy, which is your 90-day content plan. So once you've got all of that in place, then you need to talk about setting goals and prioritizing the workload. One thing that I love to use is the SMART framework. Now, this has been around for years, so I'm sure you've probably heard about it before, probably maybe already use it in your business, but it's a really easy way to realize if your strategies are solid, basically, and if they're actually going to work, if you've got enough detail in there and you've broken it down. So the SMART framework is 5 ways to come up with and check your goals and your focus. You need to be specific. What is it exactly that you are wanting to achieve? Then it needs to be measurable. And this is a huge one. How are you going to track your progress along these strategies? You can look at metrics like just revenue. How much new revenue is it generating you? What is the audience growth that you've achieved so far? Or what are the engagement rates? All of these small little details. And in the beginning, guys, when you are first starting out, this won't really tell you that much, okay? There's not that much data to actually give you any real information, but it's so important to track it right from the very beginning, because soon you'll start to see the trends and the repetition and that information, that really useful knowledge will start jumping out at you from those figures. It also needs to be achievable. Now, I am not that big a fan of achievable because honestly, I feel like anything is achievable if we put enough energy, time, and resources into it. But it does need to be realistic in the current time frame and resources. So if let's go back to that 10,000 followers. If you said, well, I want to create 10,000 followers by the end of next month, then without purely buying them, that's quite an unachievable and unrealistic target. But if you said in 3 months or 6 months, that is my target, well, that is really achievable. And it's a goal that you can work towards. Probably the biggest one here is relevant. Does this goal align with your vision and values? Is it relevant to where you are wanting your business to go? Is it relevant for now? Because there's so many things that are great ideas for your business and will make a huge difference at some point, but they're not necessarily the right thing for you to be doing right now. So one of those things for me is I am desperate to get my book out. One day I will publish my book, but that isn't going to help me on my mission right now. That's something I need to park. It will come in at some point. One day I'll have that strategy on how I'm going to achieve that. But for now, it's not the right thing for me. And the final thing with strategies is that it needs to be time bound. You need to put a deadline on it, because open-ended strategies, they never really work. They don't have the pressure behind them. I could just say, well, I want 10,000 followers, but that means when I'm 60, I could finally hit that target. That again, that's not going to help me get to that end vision. So I need to put timeframes on them. And then also that helps you with the tracking and the measuring how close you are to that goal within the timeframe. So once you've set your strategies and your goals, then it's time to prioritize them. And a simple process for this is to brainstorm everything that you think you need to do and then categorize each task. What is urgent? What's going to make the biggest impact to my mission right now? What is an important one that, might not necessarily make the biggest difference, but it's a really important thing to be focusing on? And what is just a nice to have? At the moment in my business, having that book published would just be a nice to have for me. So I'm focusing on the urgent and the important, and the nice to have. Down the line, they can be recategorized. And at some point, it might become a really important or urgent thing for me to focus on. But then you need to focus on the things that are going to make the biggest impact right now. And remember, you don't need to do everything at once, but also you can't do everything at once. You need to focus on just those one or two priorities, and then give them your full attention. And then finally, let's talk about staying consistent, because this is so difficult, especially if we go back to that, 10,000 followers. It's so hard to stay consistent with your social media and prioritize doing that every day. But having a strategy in place and seeing, that is what I need to do to achieve my goal, it helps you stay consistent with things. But also, it's not set in stone. It's sort of like a living document that evolves as your business grows. So set aside some time every quarter to just review those strategies. You need to sort of ask yourself, am I on track to hit my goals? Is my strategy still aligned with my vision, values, and purpose? Have they changed? And what is working for my business and what isn't? And you need to be really good at making the decision, okay, that isn't working, so let's just cut it now. Don't throw yourself after, I don't know what that saying is, a flog a dead horse, is it? Is that the saying? You know, if something isn't working, don't waste any more time on it. Take the loss, realize it's, it's a learning curve, never is a failure, it's always learning, and just move forward with that. You need to stick to the strategy long enough, though, to see the results. And remember, consistency is key to success. So having that strategy and having that roadmap for yourself to move forward, you can see how, you might have been really over zealous when you created that strategy, and actually you need to realize that you're going to need to stretch it out over a slightly longer time period. Or one of the elements is really letting the entire strategy down, so you need to sort of regroup and pivot slightly. But what's really important is to not forget to celebrate the wins along the way. As entrepreneurs, we're so tough on ourselves all the time, and we focus so much on when things don't work, and we forget to celebrate, the smaller wins. And every step on your roadmap, and you tick that off and you've hit that and you're on to the next one, make sure that you celebrate it, because acknowledging your progress keeps that motivation and reminds you that your strategy is working. So yeah, always look at the smaller steps and focus more on those than on any potential negatives. But that's a wrap for today's episode, guys. So remember, the strategy is your roadmap to success. Aligning it with your vision, values, and purpose, and getting those SMART goals is really how you can stay focused, keep that motivation and that vision, and keep yourself moving forward. Make sure that you're reviewing it regularly, and that this way you're building a business that's not only successful, but also meaningful and impactful. But until next time, keep showing up, keep shining, and remember, you've got this. Have a great week. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders Podcast. If you're running a small business and you're dreaming big, then Xero is here to help make those dreams a reality. Xero is all about supporting women like you, who are not just running businesses, but are also changing the game. So whether you're just starting out or you're scaling up, join a global community of female founders who trust Xero to manage their finances efficiently. Just visit refer.xero.com/female founders to learn more. But for now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with all the incredible female founders you know. And together, let's change what it means to be a female founder in today's world.